Welcome to day 3 of the Alignment Challenge. I'm so excited to dive in today. The topic today is really building on day 1 and day 2. But if you are behind and you haven't finished watching the recordings from day 1 or day 2 yet, that doesn't mean that you won't get a lot out of today. Each day is powerfully supportive individually. It's when you put them all together that it's really magical, but you can still get a lot out of it, even if you're not caught up. So if you're here live and you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't finish yesterday, no worries. Or if you're catching the recording and you're like, I have to finish day 1 and day 2 before I dive in today, don't worry about it. Just do what you can when you can. And I'm excited that you guys are here participating. So today is really all about, um, we have been learning about our human design type and our aura and how we're designed to move through life true to our nature, what our strategy is for interacting with others and interacting with the world. And we've been learning yesterday about how we are designed to make confident decisions that we can trust according to our human design authority. When you take those two things together, you have a very powerful foundation for learning how to navigate life, experiencing alignment more frequently. So, we're going to dive in today, now that we've been collecting this data and learning these foundations, using some tools of emotional intelligence and self leadership to actually help to shift so that alignment is our norm the majority of the time. The goal is not alignment 100% of the time. The goal is alignment about 80% of the time. And the goal is also to, when you do get in those funks, when you feel out of alignment, that they don't take you out for the whole day or take you out for a whole week. We want you to be able to learn how to navigate being in alignment and then getting knocked out of alignment and shifting out of it as skilled and proficiently as possible so you're not staying stuck in those ruts. I once heard a quote that said, the only difference between a rut and a grave is 6 feet. And when I hear that quote, what I think about is like so many times we get caught in ruts and then we just let ourselves stay in that rut and we're just digging ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper into the rut. So, what today is about is giving you some additional tools and additional skill sets so that we can shift out of our ruts. Not that we avoid ruts completely, because hey, life sometimes, and that's what part of our journey is about. But let's get better skills and better a way of observing ourselves and leading ourselves through this experience. So we'll jump right into the module. Of course, I think it's helpful to just set the foundation every day. This challenge is all about collectively and individually each day, teaching you things to help you learn how to experience more of that joy, fulfillment, and success by aligning with your human design. And it comes down to my signature core connection method, which ultimately is, hey, we're gonna do the internal work, the identity work, the inward work, so that we can begin to shift and completely affect everything that we're experiencing and perceiving outward. So today is going to be much more of that step 2, energy and emotional blueprint. And it's a little bit starting to begin into that step 3, which is self leadership. Your alignment is magnetic. We talked about this on day 1 when we were learning about your human design type. Your human design type is your aura. It's what people feel from you when you walk into a room. Before you even say words, people get a sense of your energy and your vibe. It can be very magnetic and it can also be repelling. You will feel more magnetic to people when you are in alignment with your human design type. And that is what this is all about. But it's also about, creating more ease and flow in your life and being a magnetic for opportunities and people and experiences that truly bring you a lot of that joy and satisfaction and fulfillment in your life. So a lot of what happens is, okay, well, I know that there are some people that are just naturally super magnetic, and I want to be one of those people, but man, what do I do when I actually have this frustration or this bitterness or this anger or when I'm in a funk or things feel hard. These decisions are challenging. When you're in these spaces, sometimes being magnetic feels impossible. But I want you to know that we are going to be learning these things to help turn up your magnetism. So, this stuff applies both in your personal life, but also in your professional life, especially in business. If you are an entrepreneur or a founder or a leader, your magnetism related to your human design type is that energy should be most aligned with your signature emotion, which is the emotion that you experience when you're in alignment. So, just a little hot tip as a sidebar here, the more that you can align your brand vibe or your personal brand or your messaging or your communication with others in alignment with your signature emotion, the more that's going to land with the right audience. It's going to translate and it's going to be felt not only from like a what's being said is resonating, but what's being felt and experienced when you're communicating is going to translate deeper. So that's just helpful to know. So when I host business masterminds, and inside my business mastermind, I work a lot on brand identity and brand messaging and marketing and sales and the alignment of the CEO, the alignment of the founder, because that energy translates in your networking, in your sales, and your marketing and everything. So just so you know, working on the stuff that we're doing in this 4-day challenge, it will have the opportunity to not only impact how you're experiencing all these things personally, but also professionally. Okay, so we have been, our integration assignments have been, okay, we know the emotion that we should be experiencing or the feeling that we should have when we're in alignment. That is our signature. And we know the emotion or the emotional trigger that we'll experience when we're out of our alignment. That's the not self theme. And we've been collecting the data. So have you guys tried this yet? Have you been doing it a little bit? Maybe kind of. Yeah. Keep collecting the data. It is so powerful to have data. I want you to keep working on this because you'll begin to notice patterns. And I'm going to teach you today the 5 ways that you can shift back into alignment when you are in that frustration, anger, bitterness, or disappointment. But a lot of times, the tools that we're going to be using, they're more effective when you have better data. So collect the emotions, to begin to observe yourself and just be mindful of what you're experiencing at each time, many points throughout the day, just so you can begin to recognize patterns and environments. So we'll get into that. So we've been observing what it looks like when we're in alignment, what our situation is, what our environment is, where we're at in our cycle, maybe what the weather is. There's all these different things can affect our signature feeling. And then we've been observing our out of alignment, not self feeling. And now today, I want to focus on routines and rituals and practices that we can use to keep us in alignment, even when we're in these situations that are triggering or these environments or cycles that are frustrating, and how we can take these triggers and move past them with more ease and not stay stuck in those ruts. One of the most powerful questions that I want you to be introduced to in this is, so many times we have this accidental habit of absorbing the energies of other people. So one of the questions that I want you to keep on your radar is this even mine? Notice when you start to feel triggers related to your not self theme. It's helpful to take a quick internal check-in. Is this mine? Because sometimes we will be absorbing from other people and we can magnify it and make it bigger when we absorb it from others. So that's just something I want to bring to your awareness. So what is energy? I talk about, you can maybe absorb energy from others. So let's just get on the same page. I know that this is common, but just so we're all understanding what I'm talking about when I say energy. Energy is all around us. Everything has energy and everything is connected. So people, emotions, the words we speak, plants, essential oils, gemstones, and crystals, the food we eat, sounds that we hear and different frequencies of sounds, colors, the environment, all of this stuff has like an energetic blueprint. And I love this graphic. You guys maybe have heard of the little study that says, talks about how if you speak lovely to your plants, they grow better. So it's like, if speaking kindly to plants helps them to grow, imagine what speaking kindly to humans can do. And I think that that is perfect for what we're talking about here, because I want you to create an awareness not only of the energy around you with your environment, your experiences, your patterns, your behaviors, and the people around you, but I also want you to be very, very aware of the energy that's happening in your internal dialogue. So we'll be getting there. We're exposed to both positive and negative energy, and the influence of energy on our aura affects our alignment. So our aura, that's like our human design type, is also sometimes called our aura. But your aura is basically described as like the 3 to 6 feet around you. It's like the bubble around you. And when we're exposed to a lot of positive energy in our day-to-day lives, then that can feel really light. When we're exposed to a lot of negative energy, that can feel really heavy. And that can affect the way that we think, feel, and behave. So as we tap into the energy with more intention and awareness, observing it like we've been collecting data of our emotions, then we have better opportunities for us to problem solve and shift and change things. And we can live more in alignment with our body and mind and spirit's original, perfectly designed blueprint. This process allows us to free up space within us and create and experience more of that peace, joy, and fulfillment. So that's what this is all about. What's interesting about energy is that it can sound very woo, like, oh, it's kind of out there. Energy, yeah, that sounds nice. But it's actually backed by scientific research. So I'm going to read this quote. I think it just perfectly depicts from an academic perspective. Everything is energy and everything is connected to everything else. The water in the ocean and the clouds in the sky, the trees and the animals, you, me, and the world around us, everything comes from the same source and returns to it. Everything is one. Thoughts and feelings are energy as well. So everything we think and feel has an influence on everything and everyone in this planet. In this way, we create our own reality because mind rules over matter. Everything is energy and everything is connected, and the quantum theory researchers discovered this answer. Not only do particles consist of energy, but so does the space between. This so-called zero-point energy. Therefore, it is true, everything consists of energy. And this is from Turner Publishing. I just think it's so interesting when you begin to study quantum physics, like the scientific research and understanding of matter and how everything connects is so fascinating to me. But I just think that this is something that we tend to know at a personal level. I mean, we've all walked into a room before and you could like, whoa, something's going on here. There's some tension here. Like you can cut it with a knife. You guys have had that experience, right? And we've all walked into a room and it felt so good. You're just like, I could spend all day here. This feels great. Like we have this internal sense of energy. So one of the coolest experiments, like personal experiments I've seen done is this experiment here, the love-hate water experiment. Have you guys heard about this before? Give me a thumbs up if you've seen it. Oh, yay, I'm excited to introduce it to you. Okay, so these are pictures of, there was an experiment done where this is kind of where the same idea came with, like when you talk kindly to plants, they grow really well, kind of an idea. But they wanted to measure this. So what happened is they took a jar of rice and water, 3 jars of rice and water. And in one, they wrote love on it and they put it in an environment. And the goal was you would daily talk to that jar, wonderful, loving, positive things. oh, you look so lovely. Look at that fresh white rice, and you're so happy, and it makes me happy that you're happy. Like all these like fun, just positive mindset things. Then there was a neutral jar, and then there was the hate jar. And they were put in a similar environment so that it wouldn't be like an environmentally impact. And the hate jar, they would just say, you're so ugly. Like, I can't believe you're just sitting there not being productive. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're just breaking down so fast. You can't even stay solid. Like, just being negative and speaking hate to this jar. And here's another experience where they did it similarly, where it was the love jar and the hate jar. And if you do a Google search on this, there's like tons of images of this. But basically, it was, and we've seen this study done with just water itself too, where people have had petri dishes of water and they spoke love things or they spoke hate things, and it affects the water chemistry and crystals. It's very fascinating. But basically, this is a really cool visual representation of, man, the same amount of time, the same environment. And you can see the bottom half of this jar still is pretty fresh and white. There's obviously deterioration, but it's so mild compared to the hate jar's complete mush. You can't see any single grain there. It's completely disintegrated. It's become moldy and gross. Like, and down here, it's even more extreme. So it's just very interesting to see this from a visual perspective. The power of energy, the power of intention, the power of words and the energy within the words. So I want that to be at your awareness as we're going through this stuff. And especially be aware of not only the environment you're in that's maybe outside of your control, but especially the environment you're in that is within your control. The routines, the patterns, the experiences, the negative self-talk, all of that I want you to be bringing to the surface from a very leader problem solving perspective, not a self judgment, shame, like, oh, I'm really screwing this up. Don't create more negative self talk as we are evaluating this stuff, okay? So, what happens when we're experiencing those not self theme emotional triggers, the feeling that we have when we're out of alignment? That frustration, the bitterness, the anger, the disappointment, depending on what your human design type is. I like to say that when we feel those emotional triggers, then we want to take that awareness of the emotion and be like, so I'm a manifesting generator. My frustration is my not self-themed trigger. I'm like, ooh, frustration. Oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated. And then after I have a second to feel my feelings, I get curious about those feelings. Okay, frustration. I see you've showed up here. You're trying to course correct, get me back into alignment. What's going on? What do I need to look deeper at? Is this even mine? You know, what triggered this in the first place? Get curious, taking those emotions and putting them at an arm's length and investigating them, problem solving them like the leader that you are. And once you kind of have data, a lot of times when you begin to look at your triggers and be like, what's going on here? What's triggering this? You'll begin to notice that there will be an environmental thing or a repeating pattern. You're getting triggered over and over. So we're going to talk about this. You've collected the data. You're observing this data. You have your frustration out here in arm's length. Here's the 5 things that you can go through that can be supportive to help you shift from being in that frustration or that not self-themed trigger back into more of an aligned signature feeling or a feeling of satisfaction. The first one is to raise your vibe. How many of you guys are Tony Robbins fans? Has anybody listened to Tony Robbins ever? Okay. Tony Robbins is known for a phrase saying like, change your state. And the whole idea of change your state is like, you got to hype yourself up and get into peak state before you go out to perform. Whether you're speaking on stage or you're about to work in your business or you're, doing anything productive for his growth. It's like, get into state first. And that is what raise your vibe is. Something that's helpful with this is to recognize when you are low vibe. So something that, if you're in a funk, We all have bad days, but you don't have to stay in that bad day all day long, and you don't have to have that bad day affect every circumstance. So I'm going to use an example. A lot of these blend together too, so I'll explain how they kind of blend together. But I have had bad days before where I was not feeling myself. It definitely felt like a lower energy day, feeling a little bit discouraged. I tend to deal with seasonal depression, so maybe it was a gloomy day. And then, but I have a networking event that I'm going to. And the whole point of this networking event is to bring my best energy and to connect with people and have fulfilling conversations. And ultimately, it leads to fulfilling and satisfying experiences. But if I'm in a crappy state, if I'm in my low vibe slump, I'm not going to be getting anything valuable out of that time. So some of the things that I do to help raise my vibe, I don't write off the whole day. I will allow myself to be in that funk, but then I'm very intentional when it's time for me to go show up at that meeting. On my way in the car, I put in my high vibes playlist. I have a playlist of songs that like make me want to dance. They just make put a smile on my face. I love the beat. And so I'm dancing, I'm singing, I'm listening to that music, and that's helping to change my state and raise my vibes. I will maybe apply essential oils that are known to help affect neurotransmitters to uplift mood. I'll make sure that I've taken my vitamins. I'll make sure that I've fed myself good food. Hangry, anyone? So I'm looking at all of these different things that I know can make a positive impact. And part of that is making sure that I'm getting into state, that I'm raising my vibe before I'm going somewhere. So that way, when I walk in the room, I can be having a bad day, but I can almost choose to metaphorically walk through the door and say, hey, sadness, hey, disappointment, hey, negative thoughts. Like, I know you're here, you're trying to help course correct me. Something's out of alignment here. You're you're important to me, but I don't have time for you right now. You need to stay over here and stage left. I'll be back in 2 hours. And I almost like mentally like take that down energy and put it aside. And I metaphorically walk through the door and I let myself be in that higher vibe energy for the 2 hours that I'm in that meeting. And when I leave the meeting, sometimes that was enough to raise my energy a lot that I don't even need to go back to those things. And other times I metaphorically walk back out of the door and okay, I'm ready. I'll process you now. Let's take a deeper look at this. Or, okay, I'll allow myself to feel sad again. I know it's difficult for women. It's like totally unlikely for us to compartmentalize personal and work or what's going on in our emotions and our alignment experience versus what we need to execute on. It's just not very common for us to be able to compartmentalize. But this compartmentalization is not about ignoring or pushing under the rug. It's about being the boss, saying, okay, you're important. I'm not pushing you under the rug, but you need to sit over here for 2 hours while I go engage in this. So think about the things that will naturally help you raise your vibe. Have a playlist like ready to queue up. Have your favorite essential oils, your favorite nourishing food, hydration. Like, what is it that you need to help you raise your vibe? Changing your environment. What this looks like is literally go outside, walk into a different room. So many times we'll let ourselves have our energy leaks like draining us more and more and more. But if you were to just get up and go for a walk or go to a different space, so you're changing things up and shifting the energy from physical movement, like moving to a new environment, sometimes that is enough to help shake things up so that you can come back more refreshed. And it doesn't have to take very long. Noticing repeating patterns. This looks like I used to be very effective at working during nap time. They call them like nap time warriors, these mompreneurs who just like hustle and get a ton done while their little babies are sleeping. And that was me. But then nap time would end. It would be time for me to pick up my older kids from school. But I had gotten so much done during that nap time, I wanted to keep going. And then I'd pick up my kids from school, and the baby was awake, and they are restless because they've been sitting in desks all day. They're hangry. They're like all of the ways that they had to be emotionally together at school all day, suddenly it unleashed on me because I was the safe space. It's like I have emotional, hangry, wild kids. There's no way that I was going to be effective in getting back to work. And so I would try to jump back in and finish the project that I had made so much momentum on during nap time. And I would get so frustrated. And that began to create a belief for me that I could not be successful while I had kids, or that my kids were keeping me from my full potential. And that was a sad thought that made me feel really depressed. I felt guilty for thinking it at all. And I felt sad that that was my situation. And then I began to collect the data of emotional triggers and I noticed a pattern. Oh my gosh, I'm getting frustrated every day between 4 and 5 p.m. because I think it's practical for me to be diving into work when it's like the time that my kids need me to feed them and cuddle them. And so I changed the pattern that became a non-negotiable for me. I'm no longer going to be expecting to work between 4 and 5 p.m. And changing the pattern completely eliminated the frustration trigger. So that I want you to notice patterns. Are you setting yourself up trying to do the same thing over and over and you're getting that frustration every time? The next thing is setting new boundaries. Remember, boundaries are not about changing somebody else. It's more about communicating your expectations and needs for how others are going to interact with you in order to support you and your energy. What that has looked like for me is um, being aware of my menstrual cycle so that I can communicate to my husband, hey, just so you know, this is a lower energy week for me. So I'm going to be running out of energy around 4 p.m. instead of having energy until 8 p.m. Just so you know, I'm feeling a little bit more sensitive. So I can't have you teasing me. Even if it's lovingly, I'm not going to receive it that way, you know? So boundaries like that, but also boundaries within your phone. Like, hey, I can't receive phone calls, or you can reach me on Voxer between this hour and this hour. Communicating these boundaries to protect your time and energy, and also to just help other people understand you better. Sometimes a lot of our energy leaks come from un- not uncommunicated expectations or unrealistic expectations that we haven't even had great conversations about. And then the last one is changing your perception. I talked about this a lot yesterday, but it's this whole idea of when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And sometimes we have a lot of things in our external circumstances that we can't change at all, but we can change. And the way that we perceive it can change. And that makes all the difference. So, this brings me to what's called the self coaching wheel. This is a practice that I like to teach my clients in my business masterminds and my private coaching. I really emphasize developing leadership, particularly self leadership, because the more effective you are at leading yourself, the more effective you are at leading others and influencing others. And so, what this begins with is our beliefs. So, we have these beliefs that create the thoughts that we think. And the thoughts we think trigger feelings that we have. And the feelings that we have influence the actions we take or don't take, which ultimately gets us the results that we have or don't have. And it can go backwards. So, sometimes what we can do is we can look at, man, I'm not getting the results I want. Well, what actions am I taking? Like, or not taking? Like, oh, okay, I'm taking this action. What feeling am I having about that action? Okay, so what's creating that feeling? What am I thinking that's creating that feeling? Well, what do I believe? Well, is that true? So let me teach you a process of how you can jump in anywhere on the wheel and problem solve and lead yourself to a better perception and a better outcome, ultimately better results. But sometimes it's helpful to actually go through a process that you can simply walk yourself through. This is called the outside in, inside out method. And it utilizes that self coaching wheel, but it helps you walk through a process of doing it. So I kind of already described it a little bit. You're first going to, from the outside, look at the results you're getting or not getting. Then you're going to evaluate the actions you're taking or not taking, the feelings that you have about that, and the thoughts and beliefs. Then you're going to challenge those thoughts and beliefs. Is that true? So let me show you what this looks like. And then then you'll come to your soul truth after you challenge it and you'll work your way back out. So I'm going to give you a real life example to help you understand this. So take a quick drink. Starting from the outside, here's a real life example that I've navigated. The result from the outside of the wheel was a family member and I, this was back during the pandemic when there was a lot of polarization, especially when it came to opinions. So a family member and I, we had a difference of opinion and it really made me feel depressed. It felt really personal to me that that we had different opinions. So the action I took was I asked this family member to take time to listen to my point of view, and my family member declined. And I was like, what? So the feeling that created was I was depressed. I was really worried. I was surprised because this family member and I always had a great relationship and really great communication. So I was surprised that the idea of conversating was like, nope, a boundary was set from them. And I was like, hold on. And that made me feel really lonely too. And I realized that the belief that was coming up from that emotional experience or the thoughts I was thinking that were creating those beliefs were I thought that the more that we view things differently in life, the less we'll be able to have a close, intimate friendship. And that's what was creating, that's what I was believing that was creating this sadness, this loneliness feeling. So then I took that belief and I asked, is this true? What else could be true? And then when I challenged that core belief that was showing up for me, I came to a new belief, or I chose what else could be true was that I'm actually really good at creating and maintaining deep, meaningful friendships with lots of people that have completely different points of view than me, and we love and enjoy being friends. That's actually true. I have so much evidence in my life of that. So, with that soul truth, the real truth, I can work my way back out the circle again. So the new belief is if it's easy for me to love and have deep, meaningful friendships with other people that have different points of view than me, then it can also be easy for me to continue to have a close, intimate friendship with my family member who has a different point of view than me. And the new feeling that created was I was way more accepting of my family member's personal decision, and the situation didn't feel personal to me anymore. It wasn't about me. I felt more peace and ready to move forward. And I didn't feel lonely because I had this new feeling that being 100% alike is not only not typical, but it's also not a prerequisite for fulfilling friendships. That's a completely different feeling than feeling sad, lonely, surprised. And with that new feeling, I had this new action that I could take, this new level of confidence. And so I was able to respond lightheartedly to my family member's text message and say, all right, no worries, talk to you later. Like this happened in a span of 5 minutes, just so you know, like that I was able to navigate the situation using this model. The more practice you have, the better and better you'll get at it. But it's just like, that's a completely different action than me being like, oh my gosh, why won't you talk to me? Like you're crazy, or here's all the research, or here's my views. Like there's completely different paths that could have been taken. But I was able to stand in this new level of confidence and peace, be like, all right, no worries. And then the new result was we're still excited to hang out and we had zero unresolved feelings. Nothing changed with my family member. Everything changed with me, how I perceived it, how I took action, the feelings that I chose to have, and ultimately what I was believing that was influencing how I was leading myself through the same experience. That's the power of changing your perception. That's why sometimes I think that that's like the most powerful thing that we can do to be in alignment is constantly be allowing ourselves to feel feelings and to navigate hard things, but sometimes it's so cool to realize that we can choose to experience something different. But I will tell you, with expansion comes contraction. This is just the norm. So we might get really skilled at leading ourselves with mindset and emotional intelligence, like navigating and learning how to manage emotional triggers. We might be great at those 5 things that helped us shift from being triggered to more aligned. But it's also totally normal for us to experience growth and then have a little bit of divot of like, are you sure? Did you really master that skill? Let's try this out. And experiencing resistance and challenge. It's part of strengthening these muscles even more. And then we'll get that contraction and then we'll have more expansion again. It's like these ebbs and flows are part of our life journey. But what you'll notice is that with expansion and contraction, we're still ultimately, even though it's not a linear upward path, ultimately it all is for our growth and we are improving and getting positive growth. So I want you to embrace duality. You can have I know we're taking data of like, I'm in alignment or I'm out of alignment. And that can sometimes seem very black and white. Like you're either in alignment or you're not. But the truth is, there's a lot of nuance to it. And there is duality. I think a huge part of being able to experience the feeling of being in alignment is having the awareness of not only your perceptions and how you lead yourself through the self coaching wheel and the inside out or outside in, inside out method, but also like the how you're expecting yourself to experience things. You can feel growth and make mistakes. You can have an anxiousness and feel very confident. You can be both learning new things and progressing, but also unlearning and deconditioning. So duality, these opposing things can be happening at the same time. And we're striving to feel that feeling of alignment 80% of the time. And so many times we can feel that feeling of satisfaction, being satiated by life itself, even when, oh my goodness, we're having some challenges with these family dynamics, or oh no, these groceries are getting expensive, our budget is getting pinched. We can have these things going on that are creating stress, overwhelm, anxiousness, discouragement, and simultaneously still see the good and experience the good and feel the fulfillment and the joy. So, and same goes to another example is like our projectors, where success is the sign that you're in alignment. The biggest drawback that I see projectors make is they are always aspiring to create a certain level of success without necessarily acknowledging the success they've already created. So, one of the things that I want you to take from this is set clear intentions. You need to know what it is you're wanting to create and experience. Because if you're just moving through life without allowing, expressing your desires or what you're wanting to work towards, then you don't necessarily have the universe and your environment working for you to help you create those experiences. And take aligned action. This goes back to what we learned about with your human design authority. I want you to take aligned action according to your human design strategy, led by making confident decisions with your human design authority. Sometimes you might get it wrong. You're not going to become a confident decision maker until you try it a few times and get better and better and better. Maybe begin practicing learning that with the smaller things like, what should I have for breakfast? Should I go to book club? Yes or no. Start with the little things. And then as you do take more of that aligned action, stay anchored in celebration. So don't take for granted the things that you have while you're on the quest for the things that you want. So it can, not having dreams and aspirations and a clear intention of what you want to create and experience, that can thwart your alignment, but also always focusing on the gap instead of celebrating what you have accomplished. There's always going to be a gap between where you are and where you aspire to be. That is called divine discontent. It's necessary for our growth because we're designed to have progression and growth in this life. But you have to stay anchored in celebration while simultaneously having intention and desires and aspirations. So today, we're going to continue doing some of what we have been doing already for your integration assignments. This is what I would love to see you take action on to actually apply some of these teachings. And assignment 1 is I want you to practice the outside in, inside out method. I would love it so much if you would write it on a piece of paper or just type it out and share with the group under the integration assignment posts. Because you know what's so great is when you share your experience and your process navigating that, it helps everybody grow. You know what a difference it is. It's very cool to support each other and celebrate each other in a process of doing the work, but it's also a great way for us to create connection and community by supporting each other in doing these. But if it feels really personal, maybe just like the one that you want to share with the group, you can make it more general without necessarily sharing all the nitty gritty details. Kind of like I did, where I didn't tell you what the thing was that we were disagreeing on, like the specifics, but you got the gist of the idea of what that process was like for me. So I would love it if you practice the outside in, inside out method and share it in the group. And then assignment number 2 is keep noticing when you're acting true to your human design type. Are you acting like a generator? Are you acting like a manifesting generator? Are you acting like a projector waiting for the invitation? Are you acting like a manifester who's taking these surges of energy and informing others what they're doing rather than waiting around to ask permission? Think about the characteristics that you learned about your human design type and practice acting like your human design type according to your strategy. But then I also want you to keep taking the data on when you're feeling in alignment and when you're feeling out of alignment, and try some of the 5 ways that I talked about that you can shift from those low vibe, feeling triggered, frustration, anger, bitterness, to shift into more of an aligned state of satisfaction, peace, success, and delight. So practice those 5 things. So use the outside in, inside out method, practice one of the 5 things, share your experience with that. And then number 3 is I want you to use your theme song. On day 1, I had you guys pick a theme song. And I want you to use this theme song for your journey to continue to be like an anchor point for you, where it will help you to shift your energy. It'll be part of raising your vibe. When you hear it, it'll be like a divine message. You're on the right track. You've got this. It's like a hug to yourself through your song. It can shift your energy and your mindset when you need it. And you can use that as part of your anchoring into your intentions of what you want to create as well. So these are things that are easy to do and easy not to do. It's not meant to be stressful homework. It's just meant to give you some clear action items on like practice using what I shared today. Try it out, see how it works and fits for you. And as you begin to practice these tools, they'll become so much easier and you'll become more proficient in them and so much more skilled at leading yourself through those feelings when you're feeling out of alignment. Okay, and also don't forget, this is main character energy. You are the main character and you are the CEO of your life. So, this whole thing today, using these tools and having this awareness, is about leading yourself as you can lead yourself to experience something different. So that even when life is lifing, you're getting curveballs, or your environment or the people in your life are not supportive to what you want to experience in your alignment, that you leading yourself can create positive shifts and positive change. So I hope that that resonates with you guys. And I'm just so excited for you to try some of these things. So let's go ahead and open it up. Do you guys have any clarifying questions or any ahas that you would like to share?
I have a question. Is there any way to print out that circle chart? Because I'd like to print it out and put it in front of me to see if I can recognize and try it. And then also maybe tape a copy upstairs, so I can explain it to my family members and see if all of us can work on recognizing the wheel and going in the right direction to getting the results that all of us want to try.
Yes.
My daughter is really working hard on making sure that the whole family communicates better. So I think having that wheel there and me explaining how you explained it, maybe will help with our communication. Are we getting the right results? Well, if we're not, okay, what's causing that?
Yeah.
So I'd like to be able to have something to print out to help me and to help, the family.
Yeah, definitely. I will post the graphic of it with the day 3 integration assignment. So I'll make a Facebook post of it inside the Bold Empowerment Movement Facebook group. So you can just save that image. And,
Okay.
but I have had requests for the slides as well. So I think I will upload the slides for each day as files inside the Bold Empowerment Movement Facebook group so that you guys can reference those
Okay.
as long as the challenge is live. So these recordings will be available for a week. So
Okay.
until next Friday. And
Okay.
I'm hoping, what I would love to see is that hopefully as more people watch the recordings, they begin participating. And I would love to see those of you who did make it live and began implementing right away. It would be really cool to see like, oh, I tried it today on day 3, but then next week on Monday or Tuesday, you try it again. And you're like, oh, aha, another layer. Oh, this is what I've observed. Now that I've been collecting the data and recognizing when I'm in alignment and when I'm out of alignment for 2 weeks, this is what I've noticed. I found new patterns. So I'm hoping that the experience of this and the community and sharing extends beyond this week into next week too.
Yeah, yeah. I am behind. I am going to go back and watch day 2. For day 1, you wanted us to print a list of, joys and, free and money, but I don't want anything.
Well,
A lot of my joys are getting out and riding a bike and watching old movies and relaxing and being with my family. All that is free.
great.
The stuff that costs money, I really don't want anything because I'm one of those people, it's the little things that bring me joy, and so all those free things are worth more than the things that cost money.
I think
Um,
that's
and
great.
and unfortunately, I don't have a theme song. Yes, I like music, but I don't look at music that way. I don't draw in the words and the meaning. I'm just more a music lover in the beat. And so,
Don't
um,
overthink your theme song. Just choose
okay.
one. Just choose one right now. Like you don't have to make sure that the lyrics are all perfectly saying exactly what you want them to say, or just think of a song that every time you hear it, you love it. I have
Okay.
one of my theme songs has lyrics, and then I have another theme song called Sunset Lover by Pettit Biscuit, and it's all instrumental. There's no words to it, but it's a theme song for me because every time I hear it, I feel peace or I feel like motivated. Like it's an instrumental song that's interesting. It's so personal to me because every time I hear it, I feel something different. And so it activates me in a way that I just love the beats and stuff. And so it's interesting because you might hear it and think it's kind of a chill song. And then sometimes I hear it and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So you can experience music. You don't need to overthink the one song or the lyrics being perfect. Just choose one in this moment that every time you hear it, it sparks that feeling of joy, or you just enjoy hearing it and you enjoy how you feel when you're listening to it.
Okay. Um, and then I just had questions about this. I don't know what any of this means. So are you going to talk about any of this stuff right here?
I am.
One day so I can take notes and understand what all this means?
Yeah, so in day 1 and day 2, I talk a lot about how human design is there are so many layers and layers and layers upon it. And sometimes people get introduced to human design and they immediately want to dive into the deeper stuff like, well, what does this center do? Or tell me about this gate? Or what are these arrows? Or what do the different colors mean? What does unconscious and conscious mean? I mean, there are so many layers. There's like human design 1.0 and human design 5.0. But what I have found is a huge mistake that a lot of people make is Ra Uru, who created human design, he shared that if you are not being in alignment with your human design type and using your human design strategy, the strategy of your type, and making decisions, navigating action with your human design authority, the advanced stuff doesn't matter because you're out of alignment. So in this challenge, and in my coaching, I spend a lot of time in helping to make sure that you guys and my clients are learning what it feels like to live according to your human design type and getting practice what it feels like acting according to your strategy and using your authority to make decisions. Because what happens is deconditioning, we have a lot of conditioning ways that society has trained us to be. And a lot of us have been operating the way that we've been told we should operate to get results. And unfortunately, sometimes deconditioning is something that we don't always see our blind spots, and we don't always give ourselves grace to have time in that process of deconditioning. So for this challenge, you're just learning about your human design type, what your type feels like, and how the strategy is, and the sign that you're in alignment, the sign you're out of alignment, and your authority, which is how you're designed to make confident decisions according to your design. If you only learn about those things and begin implementing, you can see massive alignment shifts in your life. And what I have found is the more that you practice that for a while, then as you get into the advanced stuff, it's going to click and it's going to be really intriguing and fun. But I've seen so many people that get a human design reading that teaches them about their entire chart all at once. And then when I say, how was it? They're like, oh, good. I learned this one tiny thing that is so insignificant compared to what they could have actually been integrating and implementing to see results. So I don't want to overwhelm and teach all about the human design chart. My style is to teach integration because I want to see results and lives changed and business change. So does so you're going to see all that cool stuff, and eventually I teach it, and I'm contributing to a human design certification that goes deep into all of the stuff. It's really, really cool. So there is options to just dive deep into the human design things, but be excited also about just implementing these foundations because it will shift things and create a great experience. So it's okay if you feel confused looking at your chart. You're like, what is all this stuff? Don't let it overwhelm you. Focus on the foundations first.
Okay. All right.
Emily, I have a question.
Yeah.
So on the chart that you had where you were embrace duality, where you
Uh-huh.
had the two little circles, it was like love and anger, anxious, excited. And you were saying that we're supposed to move from one to the other and be in a happy state. So
Well,
is
what
the
that means, the duality is like it's okay to experience both simultaneously. We don't have to move from the perceived negative to the positive. It's okay it's actually pretty typical to experience both the positive, quote unquote, positive things while simultaneously experiencing the quote unquote negative things. So that's what duality is. It's not about one or the other. It's like recognizing that there's often nuance and overlap and gray area, and we can experience opposing things simultaneously. Does that
okay.
make
So
sense?
so it's not necessarily love or anger or in between. It just happens to be what it is at the time of the feeling. All is okay. They're just different feelings. And because you say duality, it could mean that you're angry, but you're still loving.
Yeah. And not judging ourselves for what our emotional experience is. So I think a huge part of what I would hope you guys would take away from this is we're collecting the data of what we're experiencing emotionally. We're paring it down more simply to be like having you just look for the frustration, if that's your not self theme, and just looking for the satisfaction or the fulfillment, if that's your signature theme. That just makes it simple. But ultimately, I would love for you to collect the data of all of your emotions. But for you to be able to take aligned action and to lead yourself to experience alignment more frequently, it's simpler if you were just looking for the broad feeling of frustration and the broad feeling of satisfaction, and recognizing that it's not like 100% satisfaction. There could still be some frustration elements. You don't have to be in a like feeling the satisfaction 100% of the time to feel like you're in alignment. If you're around the 80% mark and you still have 20% of things going on that are triggering frustration for you, I would still call that successful, like a great experience. And
Right.
and navigating those emotions too is like a lot about like what does it look like throughout the day? Are you letting the heavier side of the emotions, because no, there's no good or bad, positive or negative, but what's perceived as negative emotions, are those ruling and you're staying in that energy for the majority of the day? Or are you able to kind of shift out of that rut and get back into the higher frequency or more positive feeling emotions, but without judgment? We're not judging ourselves for having not self-themed emotional triggers. We're not judging ourselves for experiencing the quote unquote negative, because no emotion is bad. It's just information.
That's a good one. Oh, I like that one.
Yeah. And I
Okay,
think
so can you say that again? So no emotion,
people
no.
do this to me all the time. We're like, say that again. I'm like, it just came. I can't.
Okay, so no emotion is bad. It's just energy.
Yeah. So no emotion is, we tend to, society, we often label emotions as positive emotions or negative emotions. But really, all emotions are just data.
Data. Okay.
And the more
That
we treat our emotions like they are data, the more we can problem solve. Because I'm a great problem solver. Are you a good problem solver? I bet you are. And how empowering does that feel when we don't let our emotions have power over us? We just let them be something that we experience that gives us clues. And when they are on the negative side of the spectrum or the lower energy side of the spectrum, we can look at what's going on in our environment, what's going on with boundaries that aren't being held, what's going on with these patterns. Have I fed myself? Did I sleep well? Did I take my vitamins? Like, we can start looking at, oh, I'm getting some information, some data here. Now I can problem solve. What's creating that lower frequency expression? What's
so
creating that negative emotion?
let me ask you. So I'm going to go back maybe 10, God, is it 10 years? A friend of mine completely got blindsided, and his wife handed him divorce papers uh, from his personal attorney. Sad story. And he was like, I need a psychiatrist because this just, okay, I don't understand what's going on here, you know? And so then the therapist would say, you have to, work with your feelings and, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, no, this isn't going to work. Anyway, so the whole situation for him was wrapped up in feelings, like sad feelings, astonished feelings, disbelief feelings, because it completely came out of, I mean, he wasn't able to kind of move forward. And finally he just said, okay, it is what it is, as sad as it is. And he did have a lot of assets, and so he had to be a little, and he had 4 kids, so he had to look at the situation a little bit differently. But he just basically said, I put my feelings aside and looked at it, just clear data.
Mm.
And based on the data, he was able to say that these are the things that need to be done, because now I was able to take my emotions out of the equation, and you look at things in a completely different way. Because when your emotions are evolved or involved, I don't know if you remember when Jackie Coda was up on stage at Polka Dot, and she goes, if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no, right? And
Yeah, that's a lot of that is just recognizing what's draining our energy. Like, but I do believe in support. Like, I think it's learning how to lead yourself well can get you really far. Learning skills for processing emotions can be so supportive, sometimes better than talking by actually doing things to help transmute emotions and energetic experiences, it can be so powerful. But also just having support systems and having different resources for learning these skills is powerful. Ultimately, I do believe that it's amazing what a shift in perception can do. And that's why it's like these 5 things. They don't all work perfectly all the time. Oh, it's okay. Just be so quiet for just a minute.
We want to say hello.
She does. She'll take the stage if you let her. She's like, here I go. But I love this conversation, and I definitely never want to minimize someone's emotional experience, especially when it comes to such challenging circumstances and when life is lifing and you're getting thrown these huge curveballs. I'm not trying to toxic positivity the situation, but it feels good to experience emotions and then look at them like a problem solving, like what is this trying to show me, and leading yourself through the outside in inside out method. And you can choose new thoughts and new beliefs that will create new emotional experiences even if the situation doesn't change. And I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but it's just a cool tool. Try it, practice it, see if it can make some positive shifts in your life.
But I do believe, I don't remember the gal that was talking earlier, but you're like, don't overthink it. I believe we look at the chart that you got us and everything that's involved in it, and we just complicate it more. And if we can simplify it, it's like becoming minimalistic. The less you have, the clearer you see.
Yes, start with the foundations, practice what you've learned and implement. It doesn't necessarily create more value to just learn and learn and learn and learn more. Implementation and aligned action is what creates change. It's what creates positive shifts. So I love to hear that. I do need to go, so we'll have to wrap
Thank
this up,
you.
but I would love to hear any ahas you have. Share them in the Facebook group. And I can't wait to get together tomorrow for day 4. Tomorrow, I'm going to teach you how to align all of this with your core values, to recognize your priorities and how to create more energy for yourself by aligning your doing with your values. So it's going to be a fun day. Thank you so much for being here live. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.
Bye.